What's going on, YouTube? It is time for a recap. What a monster day. Let's get a check of this. Let's check this out. So this morning we had tons of reads on the volatility index over under yesterday's highs, the 100 EMA. We'll go over that. I had a short plan out of the gate today where I really wanted to see some opportunity for a pop to drop. Okay, that was my main scalp. I didn't want to see too much else until we confirmed the weekly doji, which we talked about last video. So what did we see here? Well, 7:22 in the morning. I said, remember, shorts start here, 644.71, 665.17. I will show you where we got these levels, how we got them, and where we went after the short. So we had some pretty awesome moves just to watch. We had some first tag metrics around 6,700, and we have some very interesting GP algos. Now, we had two things that could have happened today off of a 1618 retracement, my favorite pivot, and I explained right here at about 7:40 this morning, and I said, guys, you got to watch this cluster of volume imbalances right here. There is a just ton of 1 minute gaps stacked up in between 67.26, 67.24. Go to your TOS chart, go to your 1 minute. You're going to see all of those 1 minute gaps stacked up. These are huge volume imbalances, and can cause giant magnets of price action. Now, remember, we said this at 7:41. We were nowhere near 6,725 at that point. So we went over a couple different areas of what we wanted to see. And through the morning, we had some pretty awesome shorts. So we had some really good out-of-the-box shorts, 88 points on my short right there. 1 minute after the open is where we got that close. So obviously one of those opening morning dumps. We hit the Lightning funded account today for $2,742. And let's get into it. So we had just a monster day. So we're going to go to the QQQ, and I want to show you that outlook on the opening morning short that I had taken for that pop, right? And what I wanted to see is the algo and the golden. Wait, I already have all this on somewhere. There we go. Booba. So this was what my short was looking like right now for this morning, okay? You know me and algos. Whenever you see a weird algo blip like this, I like to chart that off in the 5-minute Fibonacci high-low, right? And what I had for an idea was, okay, if we stay under the golden pocket, now remember that post I just showed you in Discord, the short starts here. We were calling long all through here, popping into the golden pocket, top, that's when the short starts. First tag algo movements. You got to pay attention to these. And then it turned into just the beautiful manipulation that we have seen on the screen here. And this is by far amazing because the shortcoming is going to be absolutely crazy. So the algo we have here at 7 a.m. created a perfect fib in the green, okay? Gold on my channel is always high-low of the daily. Yesterday's lows, that blue dashed line automatically coded in, and the orange, yesterday's highs automatically coded in. So we like to see that golden Fibonacci always, okay? Now look at this crazy move, okay? I said don't short anything until it pops. Opens, holds the 100 EMA, my favorite. Pops right into the golden pocket. I short the crap out of it, 90 points to the downside. 1618 target, we get out. Just showed you that trade, all in the Discord. Amazing short. Now, the continuation, okay? And now I'm a big fan of SPY. I do play off the NQ a lot of the times, but SPY's weekly doji, we had the same little setup. Remember last night on the YouTube, I said, well, if we scam up a little bit, hit that resistance, we have a chance to back test and have a potential go. Well, there was no real trades because we were so close to all-time high until we got to the pre, and I noticed the slip and tap. So I talked to you guys about a certain daily GP, right? That we had under us on that loop, and it was this guy right here, 926. We have 926 with no golden pocket, which means we do a high-low. We see a golden pocket not tagged, which means if you would fib out this candle high-low, this is the golden pocket. Again, automatically putting the golden pocket of Fibonacci on every candle that does not have a tag of it. So if price action has never came into that golden pocket to hit to continue up, you will have a beautiful triple bar line on that candle. We have two of these right here that have no tags, right? So for today's big push back up, I was very focused on if we go under 662, right? Doji weekly we talked about, we could tap into that and even go higher if it wanted to. If we stayed above it, we said it could blast off and sweep all-time highs if it wanted to, right? And this was that algo drive today, and man, did it. But let's take a quick peek at pre-market first. Where is that GP we just talked about? that we made the ghost right here? Interesting. That's the candle, right? Right. 926. Where did it hit? Interesting. Right into the channel GP, right? So in the pre-market action, it swept down under yesterday's lows in the blue dash line. Tap right into that GP because Fibonacci is the only indicator. Pops up, holds above the weekly. Rides up a little bit more. Okay, now we're above 663 again. Remember, if we do not close under 663, I can't be short. Simple as that. So we had the opening drive pop to short, which I wanted, which again SPY did as well. Held, popped right into the GP, slam. But did we have continuation? Well, we're not under 663, as we've been saying for weeks and weeks straight. We need to close under that for a continuation, but it didn't happen. So what's next? Well, force up, right? How did we have an opportunity to watch the force up? This is what a lot of questions were. How did you know it could go up? Okay, let's get into the futures here. We went over the SPY. I want to show you that bounce point. Let's get into a couple different metrics here, okay? So we had an interesting grouping of algos today, okay? I wanted to see two things, and we're going to go over the bottom side first, okay? So right here, we see this fib. We see this interesting consolidation. That was the sweep of yesterday's lows. And as you can see right here, this is the blue dash lines, yesterday's lows, auto-coded in futures as well. And it just blasted through that, right? Sweep, pow, and just never came back. But let's look inside the working metrics of this pop, right? This is a no tag GP. On the 5-minute chart, this is the one I charted off right here, high-low, because we have no GP tag, has some good hits on yesterday's lows. So that could be an interesting one to use, right? Let's go into the 1 minute real quick. And we're going to look back at that Fibonacci we made off the 5. What do we see? Oh, we see TOS trying to load. That's what we see. Here's that same GP. Now remember, it's right in that 6690s area here. 5-minute high-low goes from 6696 to 6687 and a quarter. But look at the works inside that 5-minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 1-minute candles without golden pocket tags of fib. That is a cluster. That is very important to keep this range because I will see you down here on the short on the rollover, maybe after we get this jobs data, just after we swept a new all-time high. Let's talk about why. So we fibbed this out and we had their directional picks for the day, okay? And I said in chat too, I said, guys, we're not going back down. It's up first, then drop. So here's that pop to drop here. Boom, boom, okay? Well, what happened there? Well, if we go to that 1 minute, what I tell you in the beginning of the video, go ahead back to the start of the video. And I said in Discord, I said, watch this cluster of 1 minute gaps. Okay. This is me exposing my algorithm systems that I'm putting in the course for the cancer course, nonprofit to get back to families. This is a big piece of it that I have to explain to you guys very minorly right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You get the point. You see all those gaps? I told my team to chart off that entire cluster of volume imbalances. That's my favorite thing to do is gaps, right? And we have magnets. You'll notice one right here, and you'll notice one even higher right here. So let's chart those off and label them appropriate so you can see it. So we'll just go like this, do 1 minute gap. Oop. And then we have another one, so we're just going to dupe that. Moving on down for better sake. So what are we looking at here? 1 minute gap, 1 minute gap, cluster in between here of 1 minute gaps, all filled, right? But that cluster, very interesting. So let's go into the day and let's see our outlook. The 1618 is generally one of the biggest pivots you have for algos to stay above or below, especially in my algo system, right? So let's go back to that 5 minute chart and watch this pivot point. And we'll talk oscillation after. Here's the high-low. Runs up to the 1618, right? Does not pull back to the 100. Pretty crazy, to be honest. A lot of the time, percentage-wise, we will generally come back from the 2618 or 3618 to the 100. That's a play we play all the time when we're not getting forced up like this, crazily, for a regular cycle of Fibonacci. But right now, we drew that fib high-low. It goes up to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 666. You can see that reaction that we got at that 666, a very interesting one. And we left that giant cluster of 1 minute open. Okay. I need you guys to chart this out. Even if you don't watch the videos, even if you don't watch the predictions, even if you're here to just watch for TA, chart this off and watch how we come back there as I explain this. The Fibonacci today, the pivot was 1618. So it goes up 1618, 2, 3. Look at this interesting little algo candle, right? So we had ADP today, interestingly enough, 715, right? Big old algo slam. But notice it didn't even hit the 1618, right? Slammed up, 1618, boom, 2618, ADP. Did it backtest the 1618? No. So anything above the strongest pivot of Fibonacci, which is the 1618, we had a chance to go up. So my whole trade plan was to short the pop at open, right? We went over this on SPY and QQQ with the GPs, right, of that algo wick. But look on futures. It popped up to what? 67, 24, 30, and the 1 minute gap, 67.25 area, and the cluster we just talked about. Look at the algo reaction right when it hit that. So I said, I was yelling at my chat today, don't touch a single thing until it hits this level. Do not short. I showed you guys at the beginning of the video. Go back. It says, this is where the short starts. I said it at like 7:20 some a.m. or whatever it was. You see it pop up, and we're talking about it here. Finally happens. We short the crap out of it. Now, we did not close under 67.10 because we needed to do that in order to come back down to the 1618 and our target of 6696. But that did not happen because if we are not under a 2618, we are still getting drug up by the algos, right? So we had action above. We had this cluster, which is a magnet associated with the 1 minute gap, and another 1 minute gap above it, which is volume imbalances that cause magnets. It pulls the price action to those volume imbalances. Let's go to NQ and take a peek. Lo and behold, we have to make it to the 1 minute chart first, not the 5. What do we see here? I'm not going to touch it because TOS has to load. Another 1 minute gap, also known as a volume imbalance and magnet for price action. So we'll go over these fibs real quick too. Same jam, little different setup because I used a wider candle here for the NQ, right? Big cluster of no tag GPs. Back up. Here's the pop. I shorted the crap out of this. Came down, broke. What did we hit? The freaking pivot again, 1618. We could not make it through the 1618. So up she goes. Where is it going to go? Well, I told my chat that right when I got off at 10 a.m. I said, well, guys, it's just going to grind up, and we're going to go most likely 25K. That's going to be best case scenario. Not going to play it. We're just going to watch it, right? So I did two different things here. I noticed that the 1618 always held because that is the pivot, right? Big pivot. And if it holds the 1618, it generally always rolls to the 3618. So we had a really good upside tick here above 24,800. That was a big psychological level for today because I took that speed short through 24.8 and I expected 24,720 and 24,700. That was my 100-point short. I only got 88 points out of that, which is still fantastic, but it didn't have any follow through. It scared me out right here. So that picture again that I posted at the beginning of this video of my entry and exits were here, and I closed out literally right here. Why? Because that's the 1618. So if I didn't see any panic continue under like this with confirmation, I knew it had a chance of snapping back. Here's the next data point of ISM. Okay. So let's delete that bottom fib real quick. We're going to put that back on. So I fib out ISM high low. And I said, okay, guys, this is where you're going to see the roll back up. And this was the last play I called. So pay attention, free game on the fibs here, okay? So I said, all right, guys, watch the ISM. Watch the scam shy. So we took the ISM, high low 1 minute. It moves up, does not hit the 1618, the strongest pivot. So I said, all right, watch it come down to the 100 and then retrace back to the 1618 and hopefully higher because we do have a gap. That's a magnet, right? Where's the magnet? Pretty much close enough for NQ's sake, about 10 points, to the next 2618 extension. So that 1 minute high low goes 1618 scam shy, does not actually hit it, comes down, hits the 100, and we got just a perfect roll to the gap in the 2618. Then I tried another little short up here, got a little counter trendy, and then it started to get jazzy at 880. So I closed out of that one here and said, all right, we're going to magnet to the 3618. I'm not using any special indicators, any Autobots, anything. I just know magnets through fibs, right? That's it. And last but not least, the automatic oscillation here, which I never automated, but man, this is such an automatic trigger for the brain here. We'll show you why it looked like this as well. So I want you guys to take into consideration the MACD and RSI now for sentiment, okay? Because I just showed you all the fibs and how they magneted up, where they got the targets from. I didn't have any calls for this. 25K was just, pipe dream. We're all the way up at the 666 now, cruising, right? We're way up here, which is nuts to me in two different fibs. But let's talk oscillation and how I gathered sentiment this morning with the VIX and the ETFs, okay? This is huge. You got to pay attention to this stuff. I teach this a lot because MACD and RSI are literally the things that tell you way ahead of time what the market's feeling. And of course, nothing is 100%, but we can gauge some good interest from this in pre-market. So a lot of the times I come to the wrong time frame. We're going to go back to the 5-minute now. We're going to go to the oscillation MACD RSI. We're going to always use these. These are our bread and butter. They barely steer us wrong if you know how to use them, of course. Lots of videos on the channel on how to use them. Pre-market sweep lows. We talked about this earlier in the video. Pop back up. And what do we see for the remainder from 3 a.m. when stocks open, right? All the way till open. Well, we use channels here, half and half, 50% ratios all the time. Same with the RSI. I like to see the RSI hold above 50 to give me a general sense of strength. MACD, where the moving averages are above the zero line, strength, right? So when coming into this day, if we did not break and reset the RSI and MACD to the downside, you still had to look to the upside because we have spent more time in the top channel of the RSI 5-minute and more time on the top channel of the MACD 5-minute, all pre-market, more than low. So we know the market is very strong. Let's look at the opposing on VIX. The volatility index has a very unique personality trait. If there is no catalyst for a gap up, it doesn't hold gap ups on the daily. Okay. It's very big. So where the VIX open up? 1728, 1720. Did you pay attention to the last video? Because I said we had a cluster up here and the VIX could go as high as 1730 or 1740 with the no golden pocket tags right here. Right? Where did it open? Within 10 cents, right? Now, boom, hits this. Now we're in a gap up. Orange dashed line is always yesterday's highs. So if we look at that daily chart, we obviously opened above yesterday's highs, right? And you can look here on a VIX, go look down. How many times the VIX actually enjoys a gap up? It does not. It doesn't actually enjoy any daily gaps. It's very rare. If you go back on a volatility index chart in the VIX, you'll notice that a daily chart with a gap on it, pretty few and far between, right? One a month, if that stays open for a little bit. So more often than not, and percentage-wise, we can assume that the VIX does not hold a gap up. So back to the 5-minute chart. And let's take a look at our oscillation for sentiment. RSI has spent most of its time in the bottom channel of the RSI. Okay, we agree with that. Gap up, which usually returns to yesterday's highs in the 100 EMA, and that was its only chance to hold and go bullish over 1650 is what we were looking for, right? What did it do? Banged right into 1650, popped, but could not confirm the strength. But we kind of knew that was coming ahead of time. Why? Well, look how much time the RSI has sat on the lower channel and the MACD has sat in the lower channel. Obviously inverse of the ETFs. And that was starting to give us data around 3 a.m. So if I wake up and I go back and I look at 3, 4 a.m. and I see something trending in the bottom side like this, I assume that we have a better percent chance to follow that into the open. It's very simple. Nothing is 100% in the stock market, but this is at least statistical advantage. So with those oscillations and with the obvious implications of the beautiful force up into all-time highs here, that was a perfect squeeze. And that's what we had planned if we could not get under our weekly doji and the 663. Did we stay under that break? Let's check one more time. Obviously not, right? After hours came down, broke the pre-market, went under yesterday's lows, tagged that GP, popped right over the weekly, and there we go. Shorts got owned, right? No big deal to us. Always biased traders. So what's next? Well, since we're at all-time highs, I can't predict that for you, but I can show you a couple different metrics for news, right? So if we get news and we have this monster candle, and to note, one thing that we did talk about that was bullish too is an engulfing candle, a bullish one. So I want you to look at this daily. We'll get a new, there we go, chart on here. When we seen yesterday's full engulfing bullish, a lot of the times if it gets over that GP, it goes long. Okay, free sauce here. This one, little red. Look at the high of 66527. Look at the low, 66182. We engulfed that whole range with this green guy right here. So when I fib these out, and I start to look at the golden pocket of yesterday, which was our short entry, we'll show you how this works. Algo to algo, fib to fib. The best we can assume. And you're going to see where she's going to end up right there, eh? So we had the beautiful high-low, and because we started the push and not the close under, which means we opened up, we got our perfect short entry, slammed without continuation. We did not stay under the golden pocket of that engulfing. Obviously, it was engulfing, and I wanted that huge short to at least just backtest the doji. That's all I wanted. I wasn't even looking for a huge wash, hundreds of points. We got 88 out of about 160 I wanted, but again, insane. Now, that golden pocket of yesterday was the over under. So I like to channel these out a lot of the times, and I just watch price action inside of it, along with, you guessed it, the oscillation. Oh, and for some reason it's not on this chart, so we'll just put it there. And now you can notice where the trend is friend, right? So over under that golden, breaks over, slams into the bottom, holds it, holds all the RSI, MACD, and just has a spectacular force up day into all-time highs, which we said 670 was the highest next point. And we have a 669.77 fib. That is it for all the algos today. Another amazing day, and we can't give you too much other predictions at all-time highs, but I can tell you right around 670 is the 1618 of yesterday's high low. So we'll see where she closes. My assumption is pretty close to this, and we can watch for consolidation and further news on jobs data. You want to join the Discord? You want to watch me narrate this stuff live in real time? Links in the description. Take care. Trade safe.